Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Block 2 of SPIRITISMx 2020. What a wonderful world. Coming to you right now via Facebook and YouTube of Kardec Group, the Irish Spiritist Federation, Kardec Radio, and Hedge Amigo Spirita, as well as being shared by various supporters around the world. Now, we had an absolutely great first block just earlier, and if you didn't catch that, you can catch it again on YouTube and Facebook whenever you want. So please feel free to go over to the Kardec Group Facebook and YouTube channels, like us, follow us, subscribe to us. It'll be great to have you with us. And so here in Block 2, we have the following people coming up. We'll have Jussara Korngold, Stevan Bertozzo, Tania Stevanin, and Dan Assisi. And of course, we'll have Deborah Levy back with us with a short piece of music and our prize draw again. Now, unfortunately, the people we chose for the first part of the prize draw for the block 1 didn't reply. So please make sure that you do reply with a hooray if your name is called out, because that way you'll get a chance to win a bundle of Spiritist books. So let me just bring up my slides so I can show you exactly what you're going to win. So this is us. This is Kardec Group. So you can follow us at www.kardec.org.uk. You can find us on Facebook, find us on Instagram at Kardec Group. These are our great lecturers that we have in this block. That's Deborah Levy. You can find her on www.deboralevy.com.br. And this is the prize draw. So you will be in the chance of winning a copy of The Spirits Book, The Gospel According to Spiritism, Christian Agenda, Astral City, and a pack of our wonderfully designed Christmas cards made by Kardec Group. So here we go. We have some right here in my hand. They're good quality cards, and you should get them in time to send to all your friends and family this Christmas. And like we said, if your name is pulled out, send a hooray if you win, because otherwise we'll pick another name. So before we come to Jussara, I just want to, again, thank everyone for being with us today. And if you have any questions or comments, please send them via the chat. And we already have a couple of comments coming in now. So send us a hello. Tell us where you're watching. Tell us who you are, what you're doing, what group you may be associated with, so that we can send a hello back. And of course, during this event, any questions you have for us in general, that's fine. We are going to be talking about our charity fundraiser, the High Five campaign. You may have seen that in the opener. And, it's so great that everyone's with us right now. So I don't need to do much more of an introduction. If you want to learn a lot more about us, go and watch the start of Block 1. It's all explained there. So we're going to jump straight into our next talk. And that is going to be now with Jussara Korngold. So if I bring up my correct notes. Okay, so Jussara, who many people may know, is from the Spiritist Group of New York, Spiritist Group of Connecticut. She's the General Secretary of the International Spiritist Council, President of the United States Spiritist Federation, Executive Director of the Tri-State Spiritist Federation, Founder and President of the Spiritist Group of New York and the Spiritist Alliance for Books. Jussara is a published author and has translated various Spiritist books and documents. And again, if you have any kind of questions for Jussara about her talk, please make sure that you send them via the chat, and we'll try to read them out during the event. Okay, so let's go live to New York now and say hello to Jussara. Hello, Jussara.
Hello, Adam. How nice to be here with everyone and participating in this SPIRITISMx 2020. Thank you so much for having me here in such a special date, especially for us here in the US. And we are going to be talking about Spiritism movement in the world, a path of collaboration. Collaboration here being the key word, because when we talk about Spiritist movement in the world, we are talking about union, about opening a path of collaboration, all of us working together for a purpose, for an ideal. And our ideal is Spiritism, the precious lessons we have received from the immortals that expand our understanding of Jesus' teachings. But it's important first to establish the difference between Spiritism and Spiritist movement. Spiritism is the ideal, the set of knowledge we receive from the Spirit that was compiled by Kardec, and it's the basis of our beliefs. The spirit Johann Caspar Lavater, that later would reincarnate as Euripides Barçanufo, in a communication to Kardec, published in the Spiritist Review, May 1868, he said that Spiritism is a word so vast, so great for everything it contains, that it seems to me that a person who could understand all its depth could not utter this word without the utmost respect. When we talk about Spiritist movement, we are talking about the cluster of activities which whose objective is to study, dissemination, practice of Spiritism as contained in the basic works of Kardec. And also, those that compose the Spiritist movement are the individuals that will be working jointly or on their own in the Spiritist institutions. Maybe it is not yet in our nature to work together, but these times require otherwise. We are living in times of transition, and we are going to see changes in our way of being and in our way of living. One way or another, we are living those times now. The world is changing, and the current state of this pandemic has certainly obliged us to adapt and to reinvent ourselves. It is an imposition caused by an outward factor. We are learning through a very painful experience, but we are learning. Scientists have realized that if they wanted to achieve a good result in producing a vaccine, they have to work together. They have to collaborate. And nations have gathered together and are working to reach this goal. With all this, our perspectives are changing, and we cannot accommodate in our individual world anymore, especially when we are talking about Spiritism. We have to establish a path of collaboration. It is true that we are talking about personal changes, personal growth, which is necessary for the changing of the world. It is not without a purpose that Gandhi said, "Be the change you want to see in the world." At the same time that he was inviting us to personal change, he was also indicating that it is through our changes that we will change the face of the world. There is no other way. And I like when I think about all this path of collaboration, think about all the changes we have to go through together. And I start thinking about Kardec. And we can see clearly that Kardec had a dream. In the Spirit's book, question 798, he asks the spirits, will the Spiritism become a widespread belief, or it will continue to only be accepted by the minority? Kardec was worried about the future of Spiritism, not because of any kind of personal display of vanity, of seeing his ideas, or better yet, the ideas he brought to the world through the voices, communications of the immortals go ahead, but because he remembered that the Spirit of Truth once told him that his mission was meant to stir and transform the entire world. And the Spirits replied to this question by saying Spiritism will certainly become the general belief and will mark a new era in the history of the human race. And also Kardec, in the Medium's book, he says that he dreamt about the day that we would be corresponding with each other, forming the nucleus of this great Spiritist family, that we would one day unite all people in the common brotherhood of Christian charity. So to us, Spiritists was assigned the task of demonstrating that it's possible to live and be of the world, but also to have a spiritual view, a spiritual perspective. We have been invited to demonstrate that true fraternity, collaboration is possible, regardless of ethnicity, gender, and nationality. We have been called to join our talents and to establish the basis of this new world. Dr. Bezerra de Menezes, in one of his messages, he talks about collaboration, about teamwork, when he says, together we will be a unity. Separated from one another, we will be points of view. We know it's hard. We still cannot have a clear view of what the world will become. It's like when we are starting working on the first pieces of the puzzle. The other pieces are there, but they are still in disarray. We cannot see the whole, but each piece is important. Each piece matters, and without it, we will not have a complete work. And very much like in the puzzle, we have to learn to embrace each other. So when talking about the Spiritist movement in the world, we are talking about putting our differences aside, respecting each other, and truly be willing to work together. Spiritist practitioners, in this sense, they understand and respect the difference that may exist among human beings. They highlight and value the similitudes that exist between them and strengthen the global unity through the practice of true brotherhood. The work does not belong to us. We are only called to be part of it, to do our share. And it was Kardec that has chosen these words to be our banner for us to follow through them, which is work, solidarity, and tolerance. The alliance of work, solidarity, and tolerance. But the work demands personal sacrifice, prayer, vigilance in our faith, and above all, a high capacity of self-denial. Emmanuel once said that in the Christian arena, to start is easy, to continue very difficult, and one can only reach the end through sacrifice. And as if understanding how hard this would be to us, he continues saying in what we would call is like a prayer. And he says, "Dear Jesus, make us understand for mercy's sake that God does not create us through a system of mass production. And for this reason, each one of us sees life and the processes of evolution in a different way. Spiritism today is present in over 70 nations. Efforts to bring spirituality to people have been happening all over. not only through Spiritism, evidently, but we are focusing on it because it is the ideal we have embraced for this life. I myself worry and struggle about using my time wisely, of conquering my imperfections, of learning to work together, of respecting everyone's opinion. It's not easy, I know. Not even the 12 initially called to serve Jesus managed to live without quarrels and dissensions. And when Paul joined, it required a great deal of wisdom and diplomacy on Peter's part to lead him and James to work together and to respect each other. So what is happening? We have been hearing the call. We have been called to dedicate ourselves and to do our share in this hour of transition. The times have arrived. So let us not lose focus of what we were called to do this time. We were invited to become the workers of the last hour. I say become because we have not yet finished the work. And sadly, perhaps, only a few of us will actually succeed. Because it requires working together instead of competing with one another. Many are called to work with Jesus, but few are chosen. Because in fact, few of them remain faithful to the work, placing the task before their ego. And Dr. Bezerra de Menezes tells us that if we are unable to live with those who also embrace our ideals and work with us because we differ at one point or another, how do we intend to turn the earth into a happy world if we do not transform ourselves for better? The differences that exist among us should serve only as useful instruments of mutual reflection and learning. They should never be used as pretext for dissidence and desertion. The passage of the widow's mite is very symbolic to us. It is not about how much we can give, but what it does represent to us what we are giving. We may not give much, but we may be giving all we can. This is why it's not a matter of comparing and competing. It is a matter of saying to Jesus, "Oh Lord, I don't have much, but whatever I do have, I offer you." So we should think about it. We should think that if we want to see Spiritism really take place in our world, to be established once and for all, there is no other way than working together, than collaborating with each other. We are so many countries now, so many different languages, but still we can give support to one another. We can establish this beautiful community that can help us to move forward. And we are, in a way, doing that. And even being forced to do that, because it is the only way that we will be true servants of the work that was given to us, that we have committed to accomplish during this incarnation. So I would like to leave you with a message that was received by the medium Divaldo Pereira Franco in 2016 by the Spirit Bezerra de Menezes. That is actually the summary of everything that we are talking here about, the blessed opportunity that we are having to help each other, to learn to forgive, and to use the words of Kardec, work, solidarity, and tolerance, remembering that we are still inferior spirits, that we still have a lot to learn and to grow. And it's not by pointing fingers and criticizing that we are going to manage to accomplish the dream of Kardec if it is not going to be restricted to a small group, but if it's going to spread through the world. And Dr. Bezerra de Menezes says, you have heard the profound message of the immortality of the soul. You have participated in the feast of light and enlightened yourselves with the evocation of Jesus' immortal message carved into your heart. Do not postpone the great moment of service with which you are committed. Jesus lives at the heart of our being and expects us to be faithful to him. It is not the first time that we have made a commitment to serve him and failed terribly, forgetting his message of brotherhood, so that the destructive ego would lead us to moral disasters. It is not the first time that he has spoken to the acoustics of our souls, and nevertheless, fascinated by his tenderness, we descend into the abyss of pleasure, deceptive and quick, forgetting to serve him. Once more, he returns through the immortals who are preceding him as an army, or as if the stars of the heavens descended to earth to illuminate the great night, and the commander of love would soon come after. Spiritists, you were told, love each other. Behold, it is repeated to instruct yourselves, but above all, may you dedicate yourselves to serving. Jesus is waiting for us. Jesus, as we need him, just as we need him, he needs our voice to bring him to those who are hollow to the truth or are paralyzed to the action of good. Not tomorrow, but today. Now is the right time to help. Go, and Jesus will go with you. And thank him, our zenith, our nadir, assuming the honor of loving and knowing him. So this is the message that Dr. Bezerra brought to us. This is the message that should resonate in each and everyone's heart, so that as spiritists united, we can bring to light this new era that we were invited to become part of it, that we are here trying to conquer our own selves, our own imperfections, and put in practice finally the teachings that we have been hearing from Jesus for so many times. So let us do this work together. Let us collaborate with each other. There is much to be done. There is much to be accomplished. And it's not our names that are going to be there signing the work, but the name of Jesus. So let us work with Jesus and for Jesus in this work of goodness, of establishing love and enlightenment into our planet. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jussara. And just absolutely that message from Bezerra is really, really good. And this idea of, not to postpone the service that we have been committed to. It's so important right now. So thank you, Jussara. We'll come back to you later for the Q&A. And let me just bring my slides back up once more. So if you want to contact Jussara, you can do so through the Spiritist Group of New York. And she has nominated 2 charities that she'd like donations towards, which is Brazil Child Health, so brazilchildhealth.org, as well as the women's group, the Brazilian Women's Group of New York, Grupo Mulheres do Brasil, New York. So please go and take a look and see if those charities resonate with you, and I'm sure that'd be appreciated. So let's take a quick look to see who we have online with us right now. So we have our friend Georgia from Southampton. Thank you for being with us. Fabrizio from Bournemouth. Thank you. Anna Paola from France is with us again. Claudia. Elsa Rossi, who is with us in Block 1. We have Angela here as well. Hello, Angela. Who else have we not said hello to yet? Gabby from down in Southampton. Thank you for being with us. We've got Abeid Ahmed with us as well. We have many people sending us hello. So take a moment, say hello in the chat, and we'll try and call out your name a bit later on. Oh, and we have Faye from High Wycombe again. Thank you for being with us. So we're going to go now to our second talk of the evening, and we've just been in New York, and on behalf of Kardec Group, we'd like to extend our congratulations to President Biden for his victory. We don't like to get into politics too much, but obviously it's a good thing to say. So we're going to head over to good old Dublin in Ireland now and talk to Stevan Bertozzo. So let's bring up his slide. So Stevan is a finance and data analyst who's been involved with Spiritism for many years. He is director of the Spiritist Society of Ireland, president of the Irish Spiritist Federation, which is one of our live stream partners for this event. Stevan is married and has 2 wonderful daughters. He put that in his bio. He asked me to read it out. And he likes to analyze daily situations by using Spiritist teachings to see how we can become better people, and quite rightly so. So let's bring on Stevan.
Hello everyone. Hi, Adam. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for being with us today.
Oh, thank you for having me here. Thank you. Thank you. Well, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, to be part of this event. And my talk is life. What a wonderful gift. And before we start, allow me to send you a question. Why is life beautiful? Upon so many problems, so many challenges, so many bad moments we have seen so far. And in order to help you to answer that, we need to see we have a moment in which we need to understand how we want to see it. I give an example. For someone who has a short sight, they need a concave or a curved lens, okay, right? If you have a long sight problem, you need a convex lens, which is an outward lens, okay? That's applied to our life. We have 2 options. Either we complain or contemplate it. Which one to choose? It's up to you. How do you want to go through this? How you want to go through this journey? Oh, but you can say, oh, but I'm suffering because of someone else. Okay? This is not my choice. I am victim of someone. I'm saying to you that every time we deviate from a natural loss, which is natural loss, let's say love and charity, we suffer. So every time we will a part of love and charity, we suffer. And then you can ask me, okay, but why God allows it? Why we have to suffer? We go to problems because we need to understand it and help the others. It's a kind of exercise the tolerance. We must have to exercise this moment. Our dear friend, medium, Brazilian medium, Chico Xavier, he used to say, life does not always follow our will, but is perfect in what it must be. We need to understand that it is not where we will arrive, but the mistakes and memories that we create along the way. That's that matter. Mistakes is wonderful because we will learn. Mistakes is good, yes, because we acquire knowledge, we acquire experience in order to help someone. A thinker, Margaret Lee Rumbeck, she used to say, happiness is not a station where you arrive at, but a manner of traveling. Going back to our point in the beginning here, you want to contemplate life or you want to complain? We need to understand how we live. Okay, then we goes to our dear friend Kardec, which in the first block, Charles Kemp already gave a good explanation who was our codifier of the Spiritism codifier, Allan Kardec. He says in the chapter 4, item 6 of the book Heaven and Hell, we need to understand how to live, and we not condemn an absolute, uniform, and fixed penalty. We are not condemned for that, but we suffer the natural consequences of our actions. And until we have improved the efforts of our ill. So what he does mean here? We put ourselves in a problem and we will get off this problem. We will overcome it. So we are a result of our yesterday's actions. We are forming today, we are shaping today what we will be in years to come. So what do you want to be? What do you want to be today? What's your way to think about it? Are you complaining? Are you just mourning about life, about everything, saying you are not lucky, other people are lucky? Build your own luck. It's not too late to change. Dr. Bezerra de Menezes, a spirit, used to say, we only change ourselves when the pain of changing is less than pain of living like it is. Of course, this not applies to everyone. We do have a lot of people who don't need that. But the majority who are complaining now, who are mourning now, who are saying, life is not great, this is not good. So, we need to understand that every time we have the power to change. You can change today. You can change every time. Every time we can change. See? You have this power. Another thinker, Hermann Hesse, he used to say, there is a miracle in every new beginning. So every time you change, you decide to move forward, you decide to change the situation, you decide to move on, it's a miracle. See how powerful you are. See how powerful you have, the power you have in your hands, in your mind. But we can say, oh, but the evil doesn't allow me to change. The evil, it's stronger than me. But I can say to you, to exist evil, we must necessarily exist the good. We find this answer from Kardec on the Spirit's book, question 120, when he says, we have the power, we have the idea that God created the evil. That God created the evil. We have this idea. But I say to you, evil just exists because it's the absence of good. And as we learn, we exercise the free will. And it is upon us to decide if you want to follow the good or the evil. Again, the bad comes from the absence of the good. And I ask you, do we need the shadow to reach the light? You are the light. Like Matthew 5:16 says, let your light shine before others. You are the light. You are under control. For example, we have two people, okay? They're having a very challenging life, a very bad situation, very difficult situation, and they grow up in the same environment, but one decides to go to do good things, the other decides to do bad things. So two people, same environment, two different reactions. Two different reactions. Okay? The environment influences, of course, okay? But it's necessary an association with the will, which is the free will, to allow you to change. So you're suffering. You should be. You have your own reasons. You have your own painful moments. Yes, of course you have. But it's up to you to decide if you're going to get up and move on. It's your free will. Nobody going to push you. Nobody going to give you what you need. You need to go for it. According to Spirit's book, question 121, the free will develops as the spirit acquires the awareness of itself. Okay, as we know ourselves, as more we know ourselves, more powerful is our free will. We only express the will when we have the awareness. But you can say, what is this awareness? Awareness is an education, a consciousness. And perhaps you can say also, but when we don't have this knowledge, what happens? Determinism. This is in the book, The Counselor, question 132. When we don't have the free will acting upon us, we have the determinism. So we need to be awake of ourselves. We need to be more conscious of us. We need to know ourselves. Do you know you? Do you love you? How could you love someone if you don't love yourself? How could you put your happiness in someone's hands? But people say, oh, it's my destiny to suffer. I will suffer. I came in this life to suffer. Well, my friend, if you are one of these person, I invite you to check question 851 of the Spirits book. When Kardec, the Spirits, says, fatality only exists when applied to the choice made by us upon incarnating to undergo this or that trial. So when we decide to incarnate, we decide our trials, what we undergo, okay? And we put ourselves in the environment who will allow us to work what we need to work. And we suffer the consequences when you put ourselves. But the moral trials and temptations, we preserve our free will to choose good or evil. And they are always able to yield or resist. At the end, my friends, it's up to you to decide what you want. It's at the end, it is what lens are you using? Decide. Decide which lens are you using. It's up to you. And I give you a kind of summary of the Spirit's book. I use this to myself. It's not a summary of over 1,000 questions, but Kardec's recipe for happiness. It's three things: possession of the necessary, a quiet conscience, and faith in the future. With these three things, you can overcome. With these three things, you can help someone who needs a hand to wake up. And what are you? You are in a position to help, or you're in a position to ask for help. Either way, it's your choice. If you're suffering, if you're passing through bad moments right now, ask for help. Don't hide. Speak up. If you are in a good moment of your life, look around. See if someone needs your help, needs your advice, needs your hand. Why? Because life, it is a wonderful gift. And I hope you enjoy your life as it should be, because it is perfect and according to your needs. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you enjoy the other speakers and the other blocks. Thank you, Kardec Group, for organizing this beautiful event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stevan. And I completely agree that we sometimes need to change the lenses that we're using to look at life. So, of course, if you want to contact Stevan, you can contact him through the Spiritist Society of Ireland. And if you have any questions for Stevan or any of our other lecturers, please send them through the chat. We're getting some really good ones coming through. And so it'd be great to look at them a little bit later. Okay, so we're halfway through this block already. Goes fast. And well, that's one of the ideas about SPIRITISMx. Short and insightful lectures, short and insightful talks that help us have these little nuggets of information that make us think. So we wanted to talk a little bit about our own campaign called High Five. Now, you know that feeling that you get when you do something really good, that you accomplish something, and you just so buzzing that you want to go around and give someone a high five. That's how we feel, and that's how we want people to feel when they're helping others. And that's a feeling that we want others to share as well. So High Five campaign, what is this? It is our way to help collect donations for very worthwhile causes. And there are two groups who we're trying to help right now. So Kardec Group, we're committed to helping those who need it because, let's face it, here in the UK, we don't have the same challenges and difficulties that people in other countries and other places might have. So, oh, I do apologize. I'm scrolling along the wrong screen. That sometimes happens. So the two groups that we're trying to help right now are these two. Grupo Spiritist and Comunidade Maria de Nazaré in Salvador, Bahia, and Multirão in Curitiba, both in Brazil. And these two groups are committed to helping people within their communities, within their poor communities, with things like educational care. So they have places for children to go to learn things, social care, helping people with their day-to-day needs, housing care, actually going out and building houses for people or reconstructing houses if they need that done, and many other kinds of things which, you know, we'd sometimes take for granted, but no, these people need support, and the people that they're helping. Sorry, I'm being corrected. It is Instituto Multirão. Thank you, Elsa, for that correction. So the Multirão Institute. And so, you know, the people that they help, they have nowhere else to go to get this kind of support. And during this pandemic that we've been through, it's been even more difficult for these two groups, Instituto Multirão and Grupo Spiritist to find the resources to carry out all their activities. And sometimes, yes, we're talking about financial resources here. So how can you help? Here at Kardec Group, we want you to help. So the question is, can you spare a fiver? Can you spare £5? Because that's all it really takes. So all you need to do is go to our website, www.kardec.org.uk/high5. On there, you'll find all the details about the groups, as well as the details of how to make a donation. You can even go to PayPal link and choose a value that you want to donate. And this is the tricky bit, we'd like you to make it a monthly donation. Why? Because that £5 can make a big difference. It can help to make sure that children are off the streets. It can make sure that people are in safe activities, that families can put food on their plates, that they have secure places to live in. And, you know, Florencio Anton, who runs Grupo Spiritist, will be with us tomorrow. So we might get him to talk a little bit more about his work and the things they do there. And Daniel Rossi, who runs Instituto Multirão, they both work tirelessly living in the communities where they work, and they work tirelessly to support these communities. So please consider giving us just £5 a month. It's easy. It's the same price as a coffee and a sandwich. You know, we know that many places are in lockdown, so you might not be able to get out there. But hey, if you're not getting out there, you might have that little bit of cash available. We don't know. But everyone's in their own situations. But if you can spare that small amount, you know, go on. Give us a high five. So we're going to now move on to Dan Assisi. But before that, sorry, let me just re-emphasize one thing, because we just had a comment come in about this. 100% of the donations that you give through the High Five campaign, you have to make sure that you select the correct option from our website, that High Five campaign, 100% will go directly to these two groups. So it'll be split 50-50, 50% to one, 50% to the other. So please, please, please do consider. Thank you. So we're going to go to Dan Assisi now. And so this is the third talk here on this block. And again, if you didn't catch block 1, please go back to YouTube, Facebook of Kardec Group, and you'll be able to watch block 1 all over again. And no, sorry, I do beg your pardon. We're out of sync a little bit. We're not going to Dan just yet. Dan's a little bit later. Sorry about that. I do have the wrong item shared right here. We are actually going to, if I find the right one, there we go. We're going to go to Tania Stevanin. Okay, sorry about that, everyone. So, Tania Stevanin is the co-founder of the Sheffield Spiritist Group. So, Sheffield, up in the north of the UK. She has a PhD in microbiology and a diploma in psychology. For the past 11 years, she's been working in the treatment of people with substance misuse and spending the past 10 years working with the NHS, the National Health Service. So if you have questions for Tania or for Dan or Jussara or Stevan, please make sure you put them in the chat and also send a hello as well. And so we're now going to go over to Tania with her talk about compulsive behaviours, the importance of self-acceptance. I do apologize about that, everyone. There is a slight technical issue there. Let me just sort that out. I'm sorry, these things do happen, especially when you haven't really used the system previously. So let me try and just get this up once more. And here we go with Tania.
Hello, everybody. I should be talking to you today about compulsive behaviors. Compulsive behavior, as the first slide suggests, is performing an action in a compulsive manner, so repeatedly, whether it presents us with some benefits or not. Compulsive behaviors can be caused by stress, by everyday stress, by traumas from the past, or in infancy, or as we're growing up, a recent event even, but it can also be caused by spiritual influence or obsessions. And it's acts that the person cannot control. If they could, they wouldn't be doing it. So in the second slide, examples of compulsive behavior, we see that, for example, people who are engaging in this kind of behavior, they might drink too much because alcohol and other drugs as well, they have a kind of a numbing effect that helps the person to feel a bit more in control and to sometimes block or numb the thoughts, that the compulsive thoughts and feelings that drive the person to behaving in that way. They might eat too much. Again, it's a way of finding control in an emotional life that is out of control. Obsessive compulsive disorder is a classical example of that, where people sometimes, they might wash their hands compulsively. They will flick the light switch on and off many, many times, like hundreds of times sometimes, before they're able to go out. The problem with this kind of behavior is that when the person has this kind of disturbance, it feels that this is a way to manage the behavior, to manage the emotions, but of course it is not. It just increases it reinforces that part of the mind that says you need to do those unreasonable things to feel good about yourself. And again, unfortunately, even though there are psychological issues, mental health problems that can explain these behaviors to a great extent, a large number of people unfortunately develop these patterns because of spiritual influences. And we're not just talking about full-blown spiritual obsession, which is quite serious, but we are talking about the whisperings in our mind of you need to do this. Oh, if you have this drink, you feel better. If you need to check the oven because you left it on again, whether it is true or not, and it becomes the reality in that person's mind, because in reality we are where we think. So if you're thinking fear, then we live in fear, whether the fear is real or not. So there are ways in which we can learn to manage those compulsive behaviors. And rather than going to minute details of what causes it and how detrimental, how damaging they can be, I thought that it would be more useful today if we concentrated most of the time we have in looking at how do we manage it, how do we make it easier for us, because we all go through stressful times in our lives, and it's easy to develop patterns of behavior that are not useful to us, that are stressful, that reinforces the stress. And if we are doing that, then we naturally attract people who will try to take advantage of it. And in this case, people, I mean, discarnate spirits that may try to take advantage of us. So, mindfulness is very popular at the moment, and basically, it means bringing the mind back to the present. So, for example, in especially compulsive behavioral patterns, the mind, our thoughts are often in the fear of what might happen in the future. If I leave the oven on, I might set fire to the house. If I leave the door unlocked, someone will go in and burgle my home. If I don't wash my hands 20 times, I will carry on germs that will kill all my family. So we're not talking about reasonable things here. Like, for example, we are in the middle of a pandemic and we're being encouraged to wash our hands frequently. That's reasonable. There is a reason. There is and the number of times and the occasions where it is appropriate to wash our hands is explained. But people who engages in compulsive patterns of behavior, they will wash their hands excessively until the skin is raw, until they're causing damage to themselves because of germs that are imagined rather than real germs that are causing illnesses. Okay, so mindfulness are techniques, uses techniques that brings the mind to the present. And it doesn't matter what the root cause of the problem is, if it is caused by a spiritual influence, or if it's caused by a mental health issue, or caused by present or past traumas and stressors. So think about mindfulness as bringing the mind to the present. It involves noticing what is happening in the moment using our five senses. So I will talk a little bit more about the exercises that we can do, but I often tell my clients, my patients, to identify a happy memory. And it can be a memory of a lived experience, like a beautiful holiday that they have gone to, or an imagined memory that they create for themselves. And that memory needs to have as much detail as possible for it to work. So think about, five things that you can smell, five scents in the air, five things that I can see, the birds, the trees, things that I can feel with my sense of touch, the heaviness of the soil beneath my feet, how the texture of a tree trunk feels, the feel of water running through my fingers. If I'm walking on a beautiful beach, then how does the sand feel on my feet? How does the water feel as the waves come in? All this detail help to fill in mental space and activates different parts of the brain. If I'm feeling, if I'm thinking, remembering how it feels, the texture of a tree trunk compared to the texture of a leaf, a green leaf on my fingers, or the texture of water, it affects, it activates the memory, the part of the brain that engages with that memory, it activates the tactile senses, and it will activate the nerve cells to remember, because our touch, our sense of smell, they remember experiences that can then be experienced emotionally as well. Okay, so it is the opposite of being on automatic pilot. When we are engaging in compulsive behaviors, we are in the automatic pilot. We don't even notice the triggers for the feelings, the thought pattern. So we need to switch off the automatic pilot and switch on our reasoning brain to be able to determine and select which memories, which feelings we want to engage with. So some tips for managing stress, the next slide. Be honest about your feelings. If you keep pretending that something is not causing discomfort, that relationship is not making you unhappy, that you're not having that headache, that you're not hungry, that you're not tired, that you're not struggling with your mood, with depression, with anxiety, then how are you going to look for help? How are you going to identify the help? And then we become a pressure cooker, and compulsive behaviors develop to as a way of letting out steam. So having that drink at night, oh, it relaxes me. But then if one glass of wine or half a can of lager then becomes a bottle of wine, a crater of lager, then that's not going to be helpful anymore. Get support. There is no shame in getting support. If I want to build a house, I'm not going to try and build it myself alone, because I don't have all the skills necessary to help me build the house. I will need to get all kinds of trades experts to help me build a house, the bricklayers, the plasterers, the electricians, the plumbers. So get help. There is nobody needs to try and solve all our emotional and mental health problems alone. It's not a sign of strength, it's a sign of denial. And if we are in denial, then we can't find the right help. Learn that it's not necessary for us to be perfect. We don't need to be perfect. Even in spiritism, there is this demand of, we need to be like Jesus. Nobody is going to be like Jesus in one incarnation. All that is asked of us is that we make an effort, that we try, and we need to appreciate the small successes that we achieve in a day, in a lifetime. We're not going to fix everything in a lifetime, all the mistakes we did in the past in a lifetime. So we need to acknowledge and celebrate the successes that we achieve in this lifetime, the small changes, and let's look after our spiritual needs as well. We clean our teeth every day, we shower every day, and yet, when it comes to looking after our minds, our souls, we are so neglectful of that. So let's look after our spiritual needs as well. Let's look after our minds. Let's give ourselves mental breaks during the day, several times a day if necessary. I often tell my patients, go to the loo, go to the bathroom, close the door. It's a wonderful, especially if you live in a big family, it's a wonderful place because you can be on your own and nobody questions what you're doing there. And if you're there for a few minutes longer, nobody's going to question that. So it's a great place to go, sit down for a couple of minutes, take a deep breath, and relax. And this is what I'm going to be mentioning on the next slide, some techniques for managing stress. So breathing exercise is a great way. We breathe all the time and we never notice it. So this is about noticing your breath. Take a deep breath in. Pause for a moment. Let the breath go out. Pause for a moment. With the breath in, imagine positive, healing energies. Notice how nice, how relaxing it feels. With the breath out, breathe out all the tension, the stress, the anxiety, and notice that. Sometimes 2 or 3 rounds of breathing like that is enough to help us come down again and ground ourselves. So grounding ourselves is being aware of not just the stress, how other parts of my body feels, how does my mind feels, what have I done today that was good, that made me happy, what happened today that put a smile on my face, where do I want my thoughts to go rather than on the stress. And we can break those vicious cycles of stress by just doing something that simple. Notice the thought, notice the feeling, name it. If I'm angry, pretending that I'm not angry is not going to make me less angry. It might make me more angry because now I'm angry with myself that I'm not taking action as well. So say, I am angry, I am frustrated, I am depressed, I am anxious. That doesn't mean that I'm going to give in to those thoughts, to those feelings, which means is if I have the name, I can try to look for the solution. A good exercise is to then remember the last time, especially if it's an ongoing pattern, if it's something that suffers from chronic depression or chronic anxiety, is to remember the last time that I felt really good about something or that I felt less depressed. What was happening then when I was feeling less depressed? Is there anything that was happening then that I can mimic now? Be open about our feelings. There is no shame in struggling. There is no shame in having mental health problems. There is no shame in needing help from others. I advise people, especially people with very, very severe depression who have a history of suicide attempts, and knowing that when we are feeling really down, it's difficult to even articulate that to friends and family who absolutely want to help us, to agree when we are well on a keyword, the warning word. So it could be a color, it could be the name of a bird, it could be anything at all, or a number. And if I text the number or if I say that word, my friends, my family will know immediately that I'm really down, that I need extra help, someone to come and sit with me for a few hours, someone to phone me and make sure I'm okay. So think ahead of time to look for the solution. Then we need to know that the problem exists. So ignoring it's not going to help us. And identify areas for change. We are all able to change things in our lives. Nobody's set, problems are not set in stone. They didn't develop overnight and they are not going to be solved overnight. So ask yourself, what are the things that I cannot change? We cannot change the way other people behave, but we can change the way we respond to their behavior. We can identify coping strategies that help us to cope with the behavior. When we're talking about spiritual obsession, we cannot change sometimes the mental attitude of the people who are attacking us. What we can do is to change our mental attitude towards ourselves. If they are attacking us because they think we did them wrong in the past, the best we can do in this life is to say, I'm sorry, I acknowledge that I wasn't as self-aware as I am now, I made mistakes, but I am going to forgive myself and forgive you for what you're doing to me now. And I'm going to move on with my life. I'm going to look after myself. I'm going to be kind to myself. These are the things we can change. We might not change the obsessor, the abuser, the boss, the way the children behave, the way the strangers on the streets behave, but we can change the way we respond to it in a way that's healthier for ourselves. And start small. A lot of the times when people make to-do lists and wish lists about how they're going to change, they start at the top of the list with the most difficult task, that thing that's going to take them a whole lifetime, if not more, to solve. Start with a small thing. Today, I'm going to try and complain about life a little bit less. Today, when I identify that I'm feeling, I'm in that vicious cycle of negative thinking, I'm going to think about a bird or a flower that pleases me. I'm going to picture a color that, you know, brings me some happiness and comfort. I'm going to call a friend, start small, and value that small change. So it's not impossible. Sometimes it is difficult and challenging to change certain well ingrained patterns of behavior. And whatever the causes of it, our past lives, our traumas or difficulties in this life, spiritual obsessors. The fact is, we have more control over our minds, our thoughts, and our biology than we give ourselves credit for. But if we identify that every little grain of sand, every little small change builds up that structure that becomes a pyramid, a massive, amazing building, and value that grain of sand, then we will be feeling that we're making progress. So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to be part of this event.
Okay, and thank you, Tania, for that wonderful talk. And uh, just to make it clear, Tania did pre-record that talk, but she's with us for the Q&A in just a few minutes. And that is actually quite reflective talk, and I've got quite a few notes, and we do have a couple of questions coming in for that. So thank you, Tania. Right. So where are we going next? We are now going here, and this time we definitely are going to our good friend Dan Assisi. So we're going off to California now, where Dan is based, and he is the founding member of the Spiritist Institute, the executive director of the California Spiritist Association, and the host of the Spiritist Conversation podcast, which I highly recommend everyone to go out and listen to. Dan holds a doctorate degree in education and a master's in public administration, with a graduate certificate in public policy from the University of Southern California. And Dan is an author, having recently published his first book, Our Road to Damascus, and we've definitely got ours on order. And so if you have questions for Dan, please remember to send them via the chat. And so right now we're going to bring on Dan, who's going to talk about the world upside down, changing the perspective. Hello, Dan.
Hello, friends. Greetings from California. I am excited to be here with you today. And here we are, this wonderful event. And I bring to you today an interesting perspective. Is the world upside down? All of us have been struggling to make sense of so many different things that have been going on in our lives. In the world, in the past century, in the past decade, and even in this past year, we have seen earthquakes, hurricanes, tsunamis, raging wildfires, drought. We have seen, obviously, a pandemic that we have not seen for over 100 years. Suicide rates have been higher than ever before, and the polarization and discord amongst people, among citizens of their own countries, has never been higher either. And many of us have been wondering, puzzled, why things are this way. Why does the world seem upside down? You know, the future was supposed to bring us comfort and peace, and yet here we are, struggling to find a way to navigate our lives, worried that the world might be going in a different direction than we would have ever witnessed. And we do need a new perspective. We need a new perspective to understand what is going on and to shift the way we think about our lives, our role in this planet, in the universe, and how to make this a better journey for all of us. But where can we find this new perspective? How can we think about things differently to help us redirect our minds and our hearts towards a better way of being? For that, I want to invite Carl Sagan and the Voyager spaceship that was launched in 1977 to give us photos of the universe around us in ways that we had never seen. And it's a fascinating story because Voyager can give us perspective on who we are and how we ought to live. You see, in 1977, NASA launched into space a spaceship with a beautiful and powerful camera that was going to go farther than we had ever gone before, take pictures of the solar system, and send it back. And as it traveled through space at an incredible speed of 40,000 miles per hour, In over 2 years, it reached Jupiter. And 1 year longer, in 1980, it reached Saturn and sent us back incredible pictures of those two incredible planets. But Voyager was only planned to last until then. So the scientists were surprised when still Voyager was in good shape, and they debated what else they could do. And among those voices, Carl Sagan, the famous astronomer, argued that perhaps Voyager could continue to travel but turn itself around, so that as it hurled to space in its ever-moving forward path, it could look back at Earth and take a picture of what Earth would look like in the universe. It would have been, and indeed was, after much deliberation, the first picture that we have ever gotten of Earth in context in the universe. It took 10 years from 1980 to convince NASA to do this. But in 1990, we finally got a picture that traveled through us again at 40,000 miles per hour to reach us over 5.5 hours later that showed Earth in context of the universe. And Sagan labeled this picture a pale blue dot. And the pale blue dot is an incredible, incredible self-portrayal of our planet Earth. And here it is. Here we are. Can you even see it? In that speck of light, in that small little dot out there in the galaxy, we saw Earth. And it's an incredible portrayal because it gives us incredible perspective. And Sagan invited us to think about differently, and he says, consider that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. That dot is the aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of religions, ideologies, economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor, explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there, on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. The Earth is a very small stage in a vast comic arena. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors, so that in glory and triumph they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. Think of the endless cruelties visited by the inhabitants of one corner of this pixel on the scarcely distinguishable inhabitants of some other corner. How frequent the misunderstandings, how eager they are to kill one another, how fervent their hatred. Our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe are challenged by this one pale blue dot. He goes on to say that our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. And in our obscurity, in all of this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. And there we are, all of us, contained in a picture that shows a simple blue dot traveling through space at 67 miles per hour around the sun. And if that is not enough, that pale blue dot is also traveling with our solar system around the Milky Way, with the Milky Way at 450,000 miles per hour. Together we have covered so much space, but are we making progress? Maybe then that little dot is the ship. It's a ship that carries us through space and time, that really goes and brings us to where we have never thought we could go before. If we are in this ship, should we think differently than that? Because what challenges us today is that our perspective, it's oftentimes not that we are in a ship per se, but that we are living in cabins. And for as long as we think not of the ship itself, but only of the cabins, we are going to run into problems. If all we're doing is to think that we need more in our cabins, that we want better cabins than those around us, if all we do is keep calling for room service, for more food and more different things without regard to the ship itself, I wonder what will help of us. I wonder what will happen. Because if we only demand resources to satisfy our own needs, forgetting of those around us, forgetting that those that are working under deck, forgetting of the limitations of our ship, the ship will only have to work harder and its engine will overheat. We will have trouble making do with the supplies that we have, and we'll have less diversity. And that example is not that far-fetched from what is happening today, because we still struggle every single day with wanting more for ourselves without regard to those around us. And if that is the case, then we are going to run into problems with this ship of ours, which really is our planet. We are going to overheat the engines, demanding more, that it go faster, that it give us more. And we are beginning to see that with climate change. We are beginning to see that we have a sustainability issue. We have problems where we cannot necessarily continue at the pace that we go and generate as much waste as we are currently doing, because there will be soon enough no more space in the ship to keep all that which we have consumed and no longer need, all that which is superfluous. So we have lost the sense of stewardship of this ship. We are no longer worried about where it may go, but only what is it that I can have in my cabin right now. We have forgotten that pale blue dot. And for as long as we do that, let's be honest, we need to label the ship with a different name. If we continue to think this way, if we continue to believe that all that we should care about, it's the here and now and the satisfaction of our own senses, then we might as well label the ship the Titanic. Because as long as we continue to do that, our certain future is one where eventually we are going to hit a constraint and our boat will no longer to go the way it's going. And we are going to find ourselves struggling. We are going to find ourselves struggling to understand all of a sudden, how did we get here? But the good news is that it's up to us, and that we have time and we have space and we have the will and we have the means to make sure that this boat, this planet of ours, is not the Titanic. If we are able to shift our perspective, if we're able to stop thinking as cabin occupants, but instead think of a tripulation of the ship, the crew in the ship, then we begin to make different choices that can ensure the longevity of the ship and the change in perspective that will be necessary that we can navigate better. But how can we do that? Well, the answer from our enlightened spirits are simple. They have been repeating it through times, but we also find that expressed clearly in question 913 of this foundational book that we call the Spirit's Book. When we had a chance to have enlightened spirits give us in firsthand their perspective about the challenges that we face. In it, Kardec and others ask, of all the vices, which may be regarded as the root of all challenges? And the spirits answer categorically. They tell us, we have already told you many times, selfishness. All evil derives from it. They tell us to study all the vices, and we will see that selfishness is at the bottom of them all. And they tell us farther that as much as we struggle with them, we will never be able to get rid of them as long as we have not destroyed the cause of their existence. If we have not withdrawn the plant by its roots, it will grow again. And selfishness then is at the key of this mentality that we need to change. We need to stop thinking only as cabin occupants, as we said, only about what is it that behooves us today, and shift our perspective to the long term. And fortunately, we have had another important tool in this process, and that is the understanding of life after life. Because when we begin to know and deeply internalize that in our souls, that we are immortal beings, we begin to understand that we're not just in this ship for one trip, that we are in fact frequent travelers, that we have traveled before in the ship and we want to do so again. So it's not just a matter of leaving a better ship for our children who are right with us, but it's also understanding that we will be our children's children, that we as immortal spirits that come back and reincarnate to continue this journey of learning and of growth will need a place, will need a ship with which to travel to the immensity of space to discover all the inherent and latent possibilities that lie within our souls. It is our destiny to continue to travel through the cosmos, much the same way that the pale blue dot travels through incredible speeds through intergalactic space. So the question of the moment, the challenge of our times is, how will we shift our perspective? How will we turn this world that seems upside down into a better place? The answer is simple. We need to think less of our own immediate desires and more about the needs of the whole. We need to think less about the satisfaction of our own senses right now and think with our spiritual minds to think about what is it that befits us, the immortal spirit, best in the long run. What kind of choices are we making? Are we making choices for the moment, or are we making choices for the long run? Are we making choices that speak to just our satisfaction of our flesh, or are we thinking about choices that truly build on the growth of our spirit? How can we change our lives? Can we perhaps behave a little more understandingly towards others? Can we perhaps use less resources in this planet so that we may have still a wonderful place to be when we come back 2 generations from now? Who is to say but ourselves? It is the invitation that stands the test of time. It is for us to decide how this world ought to be. It is time for us to take away from our self-centered perspective and think not as cabins, but as ships, not as just people, but as a humanity, not just as a person, but as an immortal spirit traveling through the immensity of time and space. It is us in the blue pale dot. It is us out there traveling, and we have not yet even discovered a tiny fraction of our possibilities. And so to continue on our journey, we ought to change our minds. We ought to change our perspectives. That is the invitation of the moment, to change the way we see the world so that the world can change. Not blame others, not point fingers at those who perhaps are not behaving the way we would like them to, but to adopt ourselves the changes that we want to see so that we can ensure not only the longevity of this planet, but that we also may have a vehicle in which we may continue to learn. And if that is not enough, then we certainly may remember that the helm of everything is the Creator. And if we do not make the necessary changes will be made for us. So let's leverage this time. Let's leverage this time and space to make better choices for the future ahead, to change our perspective so that we can say, hello, universe, we look forward to seeing more of you. That us, fellow travelers on the 3rd planet from the sun in the Milky Way, are planning to continue to go forward through the eons of time ahead of us, to grow in the millennia to come in a beautiful, wonderful, pale blue dot navigating through space. It's up to us, friends. And so the question that we end with is, what are we going to do today to enforce the future? What are we going to change today in ourselves to make sure that all of us have a better tomorrow?
Thank you so much, Dan, for that wonderful, wonderful reflective talk. My mind is buzzing from that. And we've got quite a few comments and questions coming in, so we'll come back to that in a few minutes. But definitely, we are here on this little dot, on this pale blue dot. Who are we really? What's our significance here? So thank you, Dan. I am literally quite speechless from that talk. So let me bring my slides up once more. So if you want to contact Dan, you can do so via Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and of course he's nominated the Spiritist Institute as a charity for you to donate to if you feel inclined to do so, which is www.spiritistinstitute.org. Okay, so let's go and have a look at some of the hellos that we've been getting. So we have Camilla, we have Patricia, we have George, we've already said hello to, Zildette, we have Don Sambo, hello there, Ejir Pachon, Alcino's here, Alcino's in the first block, Els is obviously with us again, Angela, we've already said hello to, Isadora, hello Isadora, thank you for being with us. Deborah Levy is obviously with us, and we're going to go to her music in just one moment. Anna Paula Tellis from France as well. So look, guys, send your questions through. We're going to go now actually to have a little bit more music with Deborah. So let me just make sure I get the right thing up here. And again, you can follow Deborah on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Spotify. Go and check out her music on Spotify. It's really good. And so the next track that we have from her is Isolamento and Cura, Isolation and Healing. Okay, so let's take it away with this lovely bit of music and send your questions through. Thank you so much, Deborah, for that wonderful, wonderful music. And again, you can follow Deborah on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Spotify. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to try and find a winner for our prize draw. So, just one little thing. Oh, do apologize for that. So we're going to pull out a name now. Now, we did not have a reply from the names we chose in the first block. So if we call your name, please send a hooray in the chat, because that way we know that you're actually watching. And if you send a hooray, we will contact you to sort out getting this wonderful set of books to you. So we have the names here in a hat. See, all the names are there. Right. Let's go through. And so, Anna Pucci, or Anna Pucci. It's Anna Pucci. If you're watching, please send us a hooray in the chat in the next couple of minutes and we'll contact you. No, you can't put a hooray if it's not your name called out. So some people being a little bit cheeky. So Anna Pucci, if you're watching, otherwise we'll try and call out another name in just a moment. Okay, so let's go to our Q&A with our wonderful lecturers. So we've got quite a few questions come in. So let's bring back our 4 guests. So let's bring back Jussara, Stevan, Tania, and Dan. I got it in the right order this time. Great. So we have quite a few questions here, and we still have a bit of time left. So let's go through them. So let's go one by one. One of the first questions we had was from Georgia, and it's for Jussara. So she thanks you for the reflections for tonight and says, what would you say to someone who feels disappointed in Spiritism because of the disappointment they've had with the Spiritist movement and Spiritist centers? Oh, you're on mute. No, you're still on mute.
No, I'm
okay. You're fine now.
okay. Well, my side was showing that it was okay. So again, Georgia, thank you so much for your question. It's a very important question for us to reflect. Spiritism has nothing to do with the Spiritist movement in a way, because you see, Spiritism, it's something like when we understand it is our ideal. It's the voices that came through, coordinated by the Spirit of Truth that we understand to be Jesus. It comes to expand on these Jesus teachings from the laws of nature. So it is only natural that we have been seeing in every other religion or philosophy that when it comes to the point where human beings are involved, because we are still lacking in terms of spiritual evolvement, that we are still trying to adapt the teachings, the noble and truth teachings, in terms of, thinking that they should be more a reflection of our day-to-day life than actually to think about us as immortal spirit. So it will be very common for us to see the mistakes of people that represent the Spiritist movement. We are all trying to do our best, but we should never think that Spiritism is what Spiritists are doing. Kardec himself was one that he said and several times, and there is an article that he wrote for the Spiritist Review, the Revue Spirit, where he says that the worst enemies that Spiritism can have are actually part of Spiritism, are Spiritists, because of our personal way of thinking or interpret things, or trying to kind of making again a new golden calf to fit our personal needs. But Spiritism is above all that. So if by any chance you're not happy with how Spiritism is being conducted in a particular place that you go, look for other places and read the good literature that we have. Find our other ways of continuing your pursuit in terms of spiritual enlightenment, and do not rely that much on us, because we all fail. We are all here trying to do our best, but we still have a long way to go. So please do not sacrifice Spiritism because of the Spiritists. Follow Jesus. Follow the teachings that we have from the noble spirits. And then we can be sure that one day, if we all do that, we will no longer be seeing this is impacting the Spiritist movement so much.
Yep. Thank you. And exactly, we are all human at the end of the day. We're here on this planet to learn, to grow. So some of us do make mistakes from time to time. But yeah, and Els has just sent a comment saying Kardec is 1,000,000% correct. That's absolutely true. Let's just follow what Kardec actually says. So thank you for that, Jussara. So where do we go next? Which question? Let's go to Tania, because we've got a really great question here, quite on point as well. So Tania, what advice would you give to a mother of a 20-year-old who is addicted to heavy drugs? What should she or should she not do? And how can you help someone who is in denial of their compulsive behaviors or their addictions?
That's a really important question. And, you know, I feel for anyone in that situation, being the parent of someone using drugs or engaged in any kind of behavior that could become problematic or even dangerous, could even endanger their lives. I would say look for help in the right places, find a support group of other people who experiences the situation as you experience, of the parents, other relatives, the NA, Narcotics Anonymous, as well as AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. They are an international organization. They have groups all over the world, and these groups provide not just support but information and teaching. So it teaches us how to respond to particular situations. Also, we need to remember that we can change the way we respond to situations, but we can't force people to change their behavior. We get calls from family, friends, even other medical workers every week asking for the organization I work for to do something, to section someone, to save them. In fact, you know, because that's what we want, or even the individuals themselves calling us and saying, you know, what are you going to do to help me? And I often ask them, you know, what is help for you? Because for each person, help is something different. And sometimes, and the reality is, until they realize themselves that they want to change, it's all about that free will, which is, you know, it goes both ways. We can make good decisions and we can make bad decisions. As a parent, find the right support for yourself. So even if your son takes longer changing their behavior, you're not going to become an enabler. So don't give money to them to buy the drugs. They need to take full responsibility for their choices. And it can be a difficult one. Inform yourselves of what kind of substances they use, and inform yourselves of the effects of overdoses, of withdrawals, so that if they are taken ill, if they take an overdose, or if they stop suddenly and start withdrawing, you can offer them the right support. Also, have the emergency numbers at hand in case you need to call someone to save their physical lives. And apart from that, pray and be hopeful. Do not ever lose hope, because as we've talked about here, this is not the only life we live. And when we're going through an experience like that, it's easy to lose perspective and think of this life as the only one. But even if the person we love is not able to sort out their problems in this lifetime, they will have a chance in another lifetime. So never lose hope. And always surround yourself with the support of people who can sustain you emotionally as well as magically.
Yeah, thank you. Wonderful advice there. And I think from that, we can actually go to the next question, which was actually for Stevan, but maybe you can give your thoughts on it as well, Tania, afterwards. So, and the question for Stevan was, how can we build happiness? And I'd add to that, how can we build happiness considering the free will that we have, that we sometimes misuse?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and it was composed in the right way. How can we build? So we are in a process of building our happiness, and I will answer that question with help of our dear friend Kardec. In the Spirit's book, question 990, he says, know yourself. So you need to know what you like. You need to know what you want. You need sometimes to lose. You need sometimes to win, to get to know what you like. And we experience short times of happiness. And our intention here is to make these short times in longer times. And you're only gonna do this once you know what makes you happy, what makes you be happy, and you can ask, and we will only achieve this in the moment when we make ourselves happy and make the others who are surrounding us happy as well.
Thank you. And Tania, did you have any other thoughts on that specific question?
I'll just add a tiny little thing, which I often tell my clients as well, especially those I see through the NHS. If we start asking ourselves the question, is it a need or is it a want? And I think, it complements the last lecture from Dan as well, because we have a lot of wants that we transform into needs, and then life becomes this endless pursuit of something that we can never achieve. But if we realize that it's just a want, I really, really want those really nice shoes, but I can't afford it. I really want this extra television, but I have a good one already. So we eliminate some of the wants and we value a bit more the needs. And that in itself should go some way to increase our sense of well-being, which increases our sense of happiness, even in this life.
Yeah, thank you. And the issue of wants versus needs, I think that's one thing that's important for us to consider right now during this pandemic. For example, many people want to go out and meet family. They want to go to the restaurant. They want to do this. They want to do that. The need is to follow the advice for the country you're in. If it's isolation, if it's to stay at home and do nothing, we need to respect that. So yeah, we do need to tap in more to that wants, needs. And like you quite rightly said, Stevan, know thyself. This is one of the greatest questions in the Spirit's book, and I really recommend everyone who hasn't studied it, or even everyone who has, to go back and read those questions again, because it's so insightful for us. So let's now go to Dan, and we have a couple of questions for Dan as well. So first of all, do you think the current situation that we are all living has shaken the ship, and after that, the human being will learn from the mistakes and wake up? And also, how can we really evaluate things if we are just one small being on one pale blue dot?
Wonderful. So let's start with the first one. do I think that the ship has been somewhat damaged, right? Or perhaps compromised a little bit? I think so, because I am listening to our scientists who are telling us that there are many things that we need to pay attention to and change as we notice, for instance, changes in our climate patterns. And that's something that is really worrisome for a variety of reasons, our scientists tell us, not only because, of course, it affects, the weather outside, but that effect of the weather has tremendous implications when we realize that everything is connected, right? So a changing temperature, even by a little degrees, can change the direction of winds that then impact the way the oceans go, right? We have challenges, for instance, that now has been called to our attention. Our bees seem to be dying and disappearing. And for that, might seem a very simple thing. Oh, we don't have honey anymore. How sad. But it's more than that, because they are the pollinating agents that help plants blossom. So there are a lot of things that are changing, not necessarily for the better. And so our scientists, our biologists are telling us that it may require us, actually does require us, to change the way we go about our lives. And so in a practical term, we know that the ship has been damaged. The question is, what are we going to do from here? Because it is within our power to change the course of the ship. It is within our power to change the way we lead our lives and decide how much we do require. And going back to the point that Tania was making here, right? It's time for us to live more in the needs than in the wants category, and focus on that which we really need, not what we want for the time being. And I call that sometimes, at least for me, thinking with our spiritual selves. If we can start thinking and recognizing our spiritual nature, our needs and wants might change. Because, this world can be very tricky for us sometimes when we just think with our physical bodies, and we just get caught in the pressures of the world and in the needs that people think we should have out for our lives. But when we realize that we're immortal spirits hurling through space in a beautiful rock, at incredible speeds, and that we are going to be here many more lifetimes, maybe our immediate needs, maybe that new TV, maybe that, something else, whatever it is, that car, that bigger house, are not as important as your well-being, your relationships, your personal growth. So science tells us that we need to change some of the things in our lives, perhaps consume less, perhaps waste less, right? Recycle more. And that, I think, is also an invitation for our own moral perspective. Can we do the same with our moral needs? Are we perhaps demanding too much of others? Are we giving little to the world? So there's definitely a possibility to do that. But the good news is we believe in the Creator, and we know that there is hope. There's always hope for us to change the way we go about things. And in a beautiful way. It's sometimes very scary. That change is also dependent on us. We have the tools we need to make these changes. So let's make these changes. We have a new day for us here. We have a new perspective. The world is changing, right? We are choosing different today. And so let's go ahead and choose different for our personal lives too. Now, let's not just point fingers on other people. Let's be that difference, as Gandhi said. Let's be that difference that makes the world a better place. So I think that's question number one. And question number two, what was question number two? I got excited. I totally forgot.
And how can we consider all this if we are just one small being on a pale blue dot?
Blue dot. Isn't that beautiful? I think that sometimes when we see the vastness of space, two things happen. First, we feel the incredible immensity of the universe. And second, sometimes we feel our own smallness. But, to be small is not to be meaningless. Because there is a universe within us, much the same way that we can jetson out into space like Voyager spaceship did, and see the beautiful perspective. When we go inside, we notice that we ourselves are a universe of atoms. We are a universe of future spirits and individualities, our physical body. So there is a universe inside too. Remember that question 540 of the Spirit's book, everything is connected from the simplest atom to the most beautiful archangel, which in its turn was once an atom as well. So we carry within us the universe that we see outside. It's a fantastic thing. So yes, we are small when we see the picture from Voyager traveling at 40,000 miles an hour, looking back at our tiny planet. But at the same time, we're a planet in itself. And isn't it wonderful that the Creator has created a system in which we can be both small and big at the same time, that we can be both tiny and immense at the same time, in which we are always growing and learning. So I don't take the smallness as meaninglessness. I take the smallness as an opportunity for growth. So the actions that we do every single day help us become morally bigger, even if spiritually we'll always be unequal to everybody else. So don't be discouraged by the pale blue dot. Feel the beauty and the awesomeness in the world, and know that we're all connected. The universe is connection, right? So if we are feeling disconnected, if we're feeling small, it's because we haven't realized that everything else in the universe are our peers. 13 billion, I'm going to stop talking now, but 13 billion years ago, we had a Big Bang, as we understand. The universe started. 3 minutes after that, we had elements combining to make new particles and things. From the beginning, there has to be relationships in the universe as we know it, right? From there on, particles combined, they made molecules and atoms and elements, and 13 billion years fast forward later, here we are with our own universe within us, having one single origin. We all came from that Big Bang. Like our bodies came from that matter. We're all part, every matter in the universe came from that singularity, that moment in time 13 billion years ago. So we're all small, but we're beautiful in ourselves. So don't let that discourage you, especially in this day and age when sometimes we get a little disconnected. Connect with other people. Know that you have always belonged. You have always belonged in the universe, and you always will belong. So don't get discouraged. Keep on going.
Yeah, and it's great to think about, especially spirits such as John G. Angelis, who talks about the general ecosystem of everything, that we're all part of something else. If we always consider the ground, the grass, the ants, the insects that are there, like I said, the bees, the honeybees, which are needed to pollinate one plant and another plant and another plant, so that we actually have what we need. So I agree. Even though we may be in an individual, we're still part of something bigger, and we need to play our part. So we do have quite a few questions still coming in. So we'll have just one more for Tania, one more for Jussara, and very sorry for everyone else. We're not going to be able to get to all your questions today, but wonderful questions coming in. So Tania is a question from Faye regarding online gambling and how to work with people who are in denial regarding that, and family situations regarding online gambling. What are your thoughts about that?
Similar to any other addiction, it is a compulsive behavior, it is an addiction, and it is a pretty difficult one. If anyone has the ability to block access to the sites, great, but often that is not possible, and the true addict will find a way. It's about informing yourself, getting support from groups who work with those individuals. Sometimes they will be able to have the type of conversation with them that we can't, because they will use arguments that the others cannot deny. And pray, remember that it can be also a form of obsession. Any type of addiction can have the root spiritually in obsessions. So praying, healing, if that is possible. So it is a difficult one, especially because it involves so much money and it's very distressing emotionally. So from a practical perspective, get the support from individuals and groups who work with people with this kind of addiction. Get support from spiritist groups in terms of prayer and healing, and be hopeful, because again, we do learn with our negative, painful experiences. It might take some time, but don't lose hope. Keep going.
Thank you. And one more. Actually, this will be for Jussara, and then maybe Stevan might be able to contribute as well. So how can we increase engagement between Spiritist centers? And also, can we elaborate on the role Spiritism is playing for the enlightenment of each and every single one of us towards a renewed society? So, Jussara first.
I was hoping you would go to this question. You see, everything is linked together. Exactly what we were talking about, the path of collaboration. It doesn't matter if we have a different point of views, different forms of, thinking that we can somehow contribute to Spiritism to be more known in the world. I think there is room for everyone. There is so much to be done. There are so many initiatives on behalf of Spiritism that we have to be doing, that regardless of us being in different paths, it doesn't mean that we are with a different ideal. And I think in this sense, even when we are talking about Spiritist centers, events such as this one, how many Spiritist centers are here connected, not only participating, but at the same time, watching and sending their inputs and disseminating to their own centers. But definitely we should stop thinking about Spiritism as being, just a tiny thing, Dan showed very well, this little blue dot. We're not this little blue dot. We're not this little small house that we can be in each and every place that we are located. If we don't see ourselves as a whole, there is no way we will be contributing, or we will be missing the opportunity of contributing for the dissemination. And we cannot do that. Yeah, we have our differences, we have our different opinions, our different ways of going, but it doesn't mean that we are working against each other. We have to work with each other. So Spiritism, there's not too many years ago, we received a message from Dr. Bezerra de Menezes saying that in a way, okay, I'm going to kind of not interpreting, but using my own words to reflect of what Dr. Bezerra said. It's not the name that it matters, because if somehow we mess up with Spiritism, the spirits are going to come up with something else, with another name, but the objective, the aim, the force that is behind that will go and continue with a new denomination. So it is a huge responsibility for us Spiritists to think about it and to not miss the opportunity of using everything that we have in Spiritism, the Promised Consoler, the third revelation, and make it go and penetrate in each and every home. Each one of us here, I'm sure, were saved by Spiritism. I myself was saved by Spiritism as well, and it saves me each and every day, and it gives me hope, and it gives me happiness each and every day. So the more we understand that, the more we continue in this path, the more we will see how much light and love Spiritism can bring to the world.
Great, thank you. And Stevan, your thoughts on these questions as well, please.
Well, what I say after that? We can say we need to understand we are evolving here. We are in different levels, and we are just judging everything by our own view, what is right and what is wrong. So we have Kardec's book, which is our mainland. So we needed to stick with Kardec, reading the teachings, understanding it, giving our hands to everyone, and together, even though with our difference, the difference is always going to exist. We're always going to have these. But if we aim to reach our happiness, let's say, we needed to think about Forget our judgments about what is right and what's wrong, and let's look after our neighbor. Once we stop to look after someone else who does not bring anything to us, and we start to look for those little ones who are near us but we are ignoring, we're going to help. We're going to make this difference until a certain point in which we will not have any more spiritism or any other religion. We only have one single faith.
Yeah. I have no extra comments on that, and that's how it is, obviously we know that Spiritism is not a religion itself, but it helps us to be religious. It helps us to have that connection, to have that faith. And like you said, Jussara, Spiritism can help us to see things from another perspective. It can help us find our way in life. And putting everything together, of course, understanding all this work that Kardec has left for us, in all of these books, then we can learn, we can apply, and I think that's what all this is about. So thank you, Jussara, Stevan, Tania, and Dan, for your wonderful talks, for being with us today, and we hope that we're able to talk to you all again soon. So let's say bye-bye for now, and we shall go back to our prize draw. Now, we've not had much success so far. So just to emphasize again, if we say your name, please send a hooray in the chat. Okay? Don't send a hooray just for the sake of it. We're going to choose a name right now. So we have our hat. We have a hat full of names. So okay, and actually we have two. We're going to do two names because we didn't get a name, a prize winner earlier. And Jussara Korngold. Anyone who know who that might be? Okay, so I think we can accept a hooray from Jussara for that. If you're willing to accept this bundle of Spiritist books, otherwise we're happy to put the name back and choose another one. Just let us know. But if you put it in the chat, then yep, hooray. Okay, fine. So we'll find a way to send you this bundle of books as well as a packet of our Christmas cards. And just to say that we have these cards on sale at the moment, as well as the books. So anyone who wants to get a copy of these anyway, send us an email and we'll share our email address in just a moment. Right, so we have one winner finally. Now let's choose another one. So and we've seen his name on the chat already. Abadi Ahmed. We've seen your name on the chat. If you're still there and watching us, send us a hooray. We know that he was watching before, so we'll give him just one moment. So that's great. We finally have winners for this bundle of books. So again, if anyone wants to buy any of these books, you can obviously contact your local Spiritist group, federation of where you are, or you can contact us, especially if you're here in the UK or in Europe. Just go to our website, www.kardec.org.uk, send us an email at office@kardec.org.uk. So that's office@kardec.org.uk, and we'll find a way to get you books. We've not had a reply from Abadi Ahmed. No. Okay, so we're going to choose one more from here. We're not giving up. We've got 4 bundles of books and cards to give away. Okay. Let's see if this person's online. We do know that many people might only be tuning into the Portuguese talks next tomorrow. So let's see. Rosanna Meisters. Rosanna Meisters, is that you? Send us a hooray if you're there. No, okay. We will try again probably tomorrow to see if we can find our second winner. Okay, everyone. Well, that is it. We've now come to the end of block 2 of SPIRITISMx 2020. So again, thank you all for being with us. Thank you to, let's say thank you to the Irish Spiritist Federation. Thank you to Kardec Radio, and thank you to Hedge Amigo Espírita for being our live stream partners today. Thank you to everyone who's joined us, everyone who sent their comments and their hellos. Even if we've not been able to get around to you, you know, we're grateful that you've been with us. If you didn't catch block 1, you can go to the Kardec Group YouTube and Facebook channels and find it there, watch it, subscribe and like, please. That'd be great for us. And we will see you tomorrow at 3 p.m. GMT London time for block 3, where we will have, if we bring it up, we will have these 4 great talkers. So Irici Campos Noronha, Luis Mario Duarte, Florencio Anton, and Marlon Rakedale. And their talks will be in Portuguese, but we do have English subtitles for them. So everyone should still be able to take part and watch them. So stay safe, have a good rest of your day today, and we'll see you all tomorrow.